Hello, and thanks for joining. Welcome to the Adblocker Developer Summit 2020. I'm really happy to have this amazing speaker lineup where we're going to take a look at ad blocking from a number of different angles to have a holistic discussion on the whole topic of ad blocking. I'm really happy to have all of you join. And before we start the whole day, I think a little bit of housekeeping is in order. So for all of you who have joined, if you take a look at the interface that we have, on the top right, you'll have a button called Chat. This is where we would like everyone to just send in their thoughts of what they want to share with the rest of the group in terms of their thoughts in terms of what's being discussed by the speakers, or what kind of information or insight that you have. Below this, there's a button called Questions, and this is where if you have any questions that you would like to ask the speakers during their talks, we'll take a look over here. You can just ask them. You can even upvote questions, so we can take a look at the most upvoted questions and ask them over there. And in general, if you take a look at Nora's post in the chat, you can see there's a bit.ly link. That bit.ly link is for the Slack channel. For the questions that we don't have enough time, we'll send it over to the Slack channel. And over there in the Slack channel, you can also do a little bit more of a one-on-one networking and a few private discussions with people as well. And overall, I think I just hope that people go away with this event feeling a bit more knowledgeable, excited, and inspired about the whole topic of ad blocking. And I suppose we can just start. And our first speaker, our opening keynote, is Steven. Steven is a newly joined CTO from eyeo. He has a lot of experience in the industry for a long time, and I'm really excited to have Steven present his talks and present his overview of ad blocking as an industry, and what are the challenges, what are the strengths, and things like that. So over to you, Steven.
Thanks, Shwetank. Nice to meet you. So as Shwetank said, I'm the CTO of eyeo. I've only been with the company for 9 weeks, so I've been on a really significant learning curve, both in terms of eyeo, but also in terms of ad blocking. It's something that I'm relatively new to. I've been working in IT, or to some capacity, mostly as a software engineer, for about 20-something years, the last few of which I've been CTO of Immobilien Scout, which is Germany's largest real estate portal. I've worked at Rocket Internet and Etsy, and done some work in anti-spam, which is somewhat relevant as a topic, as I've discovered. This is also the first time I've spoken at a conference remotely. It's a bit of a weird thing, not being able to see faces and not being able to see reactions. It's just a side effect of the last few months. It's also that our homes have turned into little TV studios, which I think is cool. I've rearranged my plant accordingly. So what I'm going to go through is effectively my onboarding notes. So the things I've learned over the last few months, last few weeks, I should say, about advertising and about eyeo. So just a little bit about eyeo. So Vladimir Palant wrote Adblock Plus in 2006, which then in 2011 got turned into eyeo, where the business model is to ensure users have a great experience on the internet, and without compromising their privacy, and to also provide better advertising, so removing invasive ads, because it's important that the internet remains free and usable to everyone. So I'm going to go through the things that during my onboarding and learning, the things that seem like strengths and opportunities and risks of ad blocking. And it's a volatile landscape with some interesting challenges. So ad blocking is incredibly popular. but there's a huge shift. So 5 years ago, desktop was what, 80-90% of traffic on the internet. Now it's high 40s and declining. That's a pretty staggering change in 5 years. And ad blocking still grows. So while desktop, as you see on this, is dropping down a little bit in the last couple of years, the proportion of people on desktop with ad blocking is actually increasing. And the overall drop is significantly offset by mobile. As we all know, you'd have to live in a hole to not know what's happening with devices at the moment. So mobile's exploded. The decline in desktop over the last 2 years is 4 times outstripped by the increase in mobile. So ad blocking is thriving. Largely, this is driven from demand in Asia, but this also creates some challenges because, for example, eyeo model was largely based off of, for a while, a Chrome plugin. But of course, Chrome plugins aren't necessarily that viable on mobile. So we have to find other ways. And we've got some examples of browsers. I think some talks are being done on that during the next couple of days. And eyeo is putting a lot of time into this as well. So making sure that we're being where our users are and not just focusing on a product which, while still really, really healthy, is not clearly where the future is. The other thing that's pretty awesome is the community. So these are the commits from EasyList. And I think there are some people here who've been working on EasyList. So I just want to say thank you to them. They're doing this thing in their spare time, and it's awesome, and it's really important, and it's still doing really well. So this, in the last 12 months or so, there's been about 62 contributors to EasyList, and we get about 250 commits a week. Joanna from eyeo will talk a little bit more about this later as well, I think. So there's some opportunities too. So there's areas that we're not yet completely getting our heads around, but we're starting to. So beyond mobile, there's also your TV, which is turning into being a huge issue for privacy, which I never would have thought my TV would be that. There's DNS solutions like AdGuard out there. That's great. It's not necessarily for everyone, but it's great. But for those without, it's still a huge concern, where it's not just privacy, but of course invasive advertising ruining your experience. And then you've also got smart speakers as well, which are going to start doing more and more invasive things, although having a microphone in your home, one could argue, is already fairly invasive. The other opportunity for us, and particularly at eyeo, is ML. There's a few things with this that are pretty interesting. So we actually have done some development work on this, and Adblock Plus contains some element of this, but it's only been rolled out to a very, very limited extent and then rolled back again. But we're starting to make some inroads here. And this is pretty interesting. So this is, for example, using the DOM structure as treating it as a graph, rather than using attributes, and being able to predict what the changeable elements on a web page would be. The reason we're pushing in this direction is twofold. One, filter lists are huge and they're a significant effort to maintain. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on, but we're starting to hit our limits of how we can apply filter lists. So we want to add a bit more to that by using ML. There's already some work done on perceptual models. It's actually starting to come along, but it's not yet having the impact that we want, but hopefully in the next few months it will. So that leads to what are the risks we have. And there are a few, and mostly really well intentioned, but it just makes our job slightly harder. So manifest v3 being a big one. So right now we're using the web request API to intercept requests and allow requests through. And we're moving to declarative web. We're not allowed to serve requests in subframes. The other issue we have is that the limit, I think, is about 300,000 static rules and 5,000 dynamic rules. We're running into the hundreds of thousands already, and we can deploy them whenever we want. Now, this creates a significant challenge for us. So how can we respond to circumvention when we're deploying once a quarter? So we have to change how we're deploying our ad blockers and our SDKs. We also need to be really sensitive to legal challenges and where people challenge as well. So we need to be able to respond to. So how we're going to use dynamic rules and static rules, we're figuring out. We've got a canary build in progress at the moment, and it's coming along quite well. But there's still some other unanswered questions with this. So it's important to stress that the Chrome team, who are doing the closing keynote, they've been incredibly helpful. So they've been engaging with the community, they've been listening, and so we're really thankful for them as a partner. But there's still some unknowns here. So what happens if we exceed our limit? Will engineers be able to work with service workers instead of background images? If we have a bunch of blocking filters loaded statically, are we going to say we're going to be quick enough to be able to respond to circumvention? And just in general, will the quality of the product be as good as manifest v3 and v2? We'll hope so, but it is a challenge. There's a talk from Mozilla later, I think, where maybe they'll talk about Firefox and if they're going to be going down the same route. That's one significant challenge, and we're on it in the moment. The other one is the web packaging specification, and Jeff Yaskin's going to talk about that too, I think. This is where the whole page is bundled as a single request. So if you think about how ad blocking works, it's based on the per request. We'll lose that visibility. There's also some opportunity for obfuscation from tracking and ads. So that's something that we need to figure out as well, and so hopefully Jeff can talk that through. And then the last one is also super interesting, and having worked in anti-spam 15 years ago, this reminds me so much of that world of circumvention, anti-circumvention. So you do something, and then the person you're trying to disrupt does something else. There's a really nice example here from, I don't know exactly where this comes from, but it makes reference to an eyeo employer and asking them to go to sleep. This is from a circumvention provider. So there's this kind of fun cat and mouse game happening. For eyeo, this is actually it's a bigger issue than a cat and mouse game. So we have, because of our visibility, we're also the target for legal avenues of attack. So this is something we have to be really careful about, and we stay on the right side of the law. Nonetheless, it's a significant inconvenience, something we're really sensitive to. Our repositories get watched, so do the other filter repositories. So often we're deploying our changes a long time after the circumvention people have been able to adapt to them. So that's again something we need to overcome. So that's kind of the state of the union. These are the things I've learned over the last 9 weeks. And just to summarize, so the growth is really, really good. There seems to be loads of headroom as well. Changes in devices, like with mobile, but with smart TVs and smart speakers, are going to present some interesting challenges as well, both for us as an opportunity, but for people in their homes to protect their privacy and make sure that advertising isn't a huge problem. Machine learning is starting to be a big deal for us. We're growing it and it's coming along, but it's still quite early. And the really well-intentioned changes to make the internet a better place, they're an inconvenience to us and to ad blocking. But we're working with that, and it is what it is, and we'll hear a bit more about it over the next couple of days. That's it. That's my relatively short keynote, an introduction. I hope you enjoy the rest of the summit. It looks excellent. The speaker lineup looks really good. For me, it's going to continue to be part of my onboarding, so I'm looking forward to listening to some of the talks. And I think Shwetank is going to handle some questions.
Yes, thanks for having that very crisp overview of the entire ad blocking landscape. I think that's pretty nice. You touched a bit on the role of desktop and mobile. What do you see as the future of ad blocking in terms of devices and platforms? Do you think that mobile usage, for example, would plateau at some point? And at that point, what do you think would be the next frontier for ad blocking?
I mean, I think there's huge headroom. There's a few reasons for this. One is that we're just starting to wrap our heads around it. So we haven't really, like eyeo and other companies, we haven't really done a great job of exploiting that so far. So there's huge headroom within just people who have phones and browse the internet. So let alone the growth in that as a natural medium, there's headroom for us. The other thing that's really interesting, and particularly over the last couple of years, is the awareness of the general public for privacy. It's now a political discussion, and when you go to a website, you get all this stuff flying in front of you about accepting cookies and GDPR fines that they weren't a flash in the pan, they're a real thing, and that's driven by the general public sentiment. So I don't think that's going away, and I don't think tracking is going away, and invasive advertising is not going away. So there's still massive headroom.
Yeah. As a sort of outsider coming into the world of ad blocking, what's been the most surprising thing for you in the last couple of weeks or months? Something that stood out to you over the course of you joining eyeo?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. One is I've got one of them on, these eyeo t-shirts, which make my head hurt. And I have all these meetings with people wearing these t-shirts, and it actively hurts my eyes. I'm wearing one now just to be a good eyeo comrade, but oh God, they annoy me. So that was the most surprising thing. I didn't know I could get a headache from a t-shirt on a screen. The other thing is how much it resembles anti-spam still. So 15 years ago, we I don't say we took care of spam, but the situation's improved dramatically. But being in the trenches on that it reminds me so much of where we are now, and the technologies we need to employ, and the efficiencies we need to gain on trying to block spam, and the mentality of people as well. The cat and mouse thing, and we used to call it an arms race in anti-spam. Like, we do a thing, they do a thing, we do a thing, they do a thing. It looks exactly like that. And I've been a bit surprised by that. Yeah,
the whole adversarial aspect of circumvention and trying to
and we used to go in anti-spam as well. Like in the headers, email headers, we would put little digs at each other, and you can see it. There was that example from some web page. So it can be kind of, I guess, fun in a way, even though it's quite a serious business. It can be quite good fun too, but we're not losing sight of our goals.
Yeah, and also that kind of reminds me, one of the most effective uses of machine learning was in the area of anti-spam, right? And I think that could also be one of the things to look forward to in the future when it comes to the world of ad blocking. So that's really is really great. One question before I leave you is, what do you expect to get out of this event? You mentioned about the speaker lineup, and you referred to a few speakers in your talk. So yeah.
Yeah. So selfishly, being 9 weeks into this job, for me, this is about learning. I'm looking forward to hearing what people have to say and making notes and learning quite a lot from this. So this is like I couldn't ask for a better onboarding experience than this conference, I don't think.
Okay. There's one more question from the audience. Can you talk about the Apple situation? Do the privacy improvements of iOS qualify effectively as ad blocking. By the way, I think Andre from AdGuard will be talking a lot about the Apple situation and iOS, and also Zubair has who's also one of the speakers, has probably some thoughts over there as well. But Stephen, if you once again, you're pretty new to the world of ad blocking, so even if you don't have that much of an opinion right now, you're starting to learn. That's fine. But yeah.
The walled garden thing is something that obviously like as a business concerns us. I think on one hand, that Apple and Google are taking this really seriously, taking what we do really seriously is great. But for us as a business, yeah, it's not ideal. But we prefer to work with companies than and that's kind of our position, our preference.
Yeah, in general, walled gardens are good for the person making the walled garden, but everyone else is kind of. Thanks so much, Steve, for all of the insights and your talk. And yeah, I really hope that everyone over here had a good time with the talk. And we're gonna end right now, but we're gonna come back at 1 p.m. CET with our next talk, with Shilpi Kapoor from Barrier Break. So see you at that time.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good time.